Good evening, everyone. Welcome to RJ Julia Booksellers virtual event. Together with 1010 Wins weekend radio anchor Kathleen Marple Kalb, we are hosting our second annual Cozy Mysteries panel. Really quick before we get started, just a few Zoom housekeeping details for you. Please ask questions using the chat box function of your Zoom screen. We're going to get to as many of your questions as we can later in the evening, and though you will remain muted throughout the duration of the event, an RJ Julia staff member is monitoring the chat box. So if you have questions, send them on over. For optimal viewing, you can use the Zoom view functions in the top right corner of your screen and select speaker view. And that way the speaking author will be highlighted throughout the duration of the event. And of course, please don't forget to purchase your book copies to take home with you. Tonight, if you buy 3 or more books, you will receive 10% off. So links to rjjulia.com will be forwarded to you using that chat box function as well. Our moderator this evening is Kathleen Marple Kalb, author of the Ella Shane Mysteries. Kathleen lives with her family in Cheshire, Connecticut, and is currently a weekend morning anchor at 1010 Wins Radio, New York's top all-news station, capping a career she began as a teenage DJ in Western Pennsylvania. She currently is working on the next Ella Shane historical mystery, and tonight we'll be in conversation with some of our Cozy Mysteries panel. Author Erica Ruth Neubauer joins us tonight from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. She spent 11 years in the military, nearly 2 as a Maryland police officer, and 1 as a high school English teacher before finding her way as a writer. She has been a reviewer of mysteries and crime fiction for publications such as Publishers Weekly and Mystery Scene magazine for several years. She's a member of Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America. We also have with us tonight J.M. Griffin, who joins us from Rhode Island and is best-selling cozy mystery author of 17 novels, including the Vinny Esposito series and the Jules and Bun mysteries. Currently, she's working on her next Jules and Bun mystery. Author Kristin Brecker joins us tonight from New York City. The idea to write the Nantucket Candlemaker series sprang from her lifelong connection to the small island off of the coast of Massachusetts. Spending summers there as a child, Kristin read from her family's library of mystery novels, after which she began to imagine stories inspired by the island. After many years in marketing for the publishing industry, followed by years raising her children, the Nantucket Candlemaker Mysteries are Kristin's debut series. And also joining us, I think later in the evening, we will have Peggy Earhart. Peggy is a former English professor who holds a PhD in medieval literature from the University of Illinois and taught writing and literature at Queens College, the City University of New York, and Fairleigh Dickinson University. So without further ado, please welcome Kathleen Marple Kalb.
Hi there. So this is the easy question. Tell me about your new project. I'm going to start with Erica, who is our other brand new debut author. Tell me about Murder at the Mena House. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, it's Murder at the Mena House. It is a historical mystery set in 1920s Egypt. My protagonist, Jane Wonderly, is a war widow of the First World War, and she and her aunt are traveling to Egypt, and she gets accused of the murder of a very unpleasant young socialite and has to clear her own name.
Cool. Kristin.
Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be here tonight. I am, my second book of the Nantucket Candlemaker Mysteries came out in February. Murder Makes Sense. And I love this book. It's a little bit of action adventure mixed in with cozy in that the book actually starts in Paris, where my protagonist, Stella Wright, who lives in Nantucket and owns a candle store there, where she makes and sells her candles, she meets up with her mom in Paris, and they witness a terrible murder, and obviously unexpectedly, the mystery of all of that follows them back to Nantucket, and there's like a little bit of international intrigue here, and Stella's running across marshes and following lighthouse beams at night and breaking into places on sea and on land to find the person who killed this gentleman in Paris and to protect her mother, who becomes a target for the murder. So that's a little bit of it in a nutshell.
Great. Jean, about the the Jules and Bun series and the new one, What's Dead, Doc?
Yes, yes. It's been so much fun because I love rabbits. I don't have any rabbits, just the wild ones that come in my yard. However, the third book has been turned in for, well, probably multiple editings, but we won't talk about that right now. Jules and Bun, Bun was a rescue rabbit. He had been abused by his former owner, and Jules has a rabbit farm, and she takes in abused rabbits, but she also takes in rabbits that people, if they're moving away and they can't take the rabbit, she takes the rabbit. And sometimes she will get involved in a mystery, but for the very, very longest time, she didn't realize that Bun could talk to her by way of telepathy. So she thought she was losing her mind. And finally, it dawned on her that he was actually having a conversation with her, and he just knew things about life. So he has this incredible habit of wanting to get mixed up in mysteries, and she doesn't want to get mixed up in mysteries, but they always end up being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, well, the right time for Bun. So they have had 2 adventures so far, and the third adventure, well, might come out in another year, but the second book is due out in January. And it's been a fun adventure, and I love working with Kensington, and I love working with all of the authors, and Larissa does a heck of a good job keeping us all connected. And at Julia's, I love Julia's. I really, really, really love the bookstore. I think it's a great place.
Yes.
And that's it.
All second on all of that. Yes. Bringing out a book in April of 2020 without Larissa would have been impossible.
I know that. Yes,
I would,
absolutely. A little applause.
Yes. More than once I threatened to, as I put it to my husband, I'm going to go lie down in traffic, but there isn't any. And probably the only reason I didn't end up on I-84 is Larissa. So yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the journey that led to writing your cozy mysteries. I know I ended up in kind of the cozy space because as a news person, I will literally do anything to write about something that would not end up on my desk at work. I do not want to hear about terrible things happening to children. I have one. I do not want to hear about, pieces of people being found in various parts scattered across the city. And I sure don't want to write about that. I don't want to depress people with that. So for me, a lot of it was just simply a question of, if it's something that I could see at my desk at work, I'm not going to write about it. And of course, New York in 1899 was a great way to get there for that. How did you get there?
Me?
Yeah, sure, please. Yes.
Okay. Back in the early 2000s, I was sulking because I couldn't find a good book to read. And I don't know why that happened. It must have been a mood or something. I don't know. Anyway, my husband said, if you think it's so easy, why don't you write a book? He threw the gauntlet down. I picked it up. I did not stab him with it, by the way, but I did take that opportunity to begin writing. I had always been a storyteller since I was a kid. I loved mysteries. Nancy Drew was my fave.
Yes.
And it just took off from there. And I happened to run into Evan, my agent, in Florida, and that's how he became my agent. And then John came into my life, and then all of you came into my life, and we're all happy. But I love cozies because there's no gore. There's enough of that in life. We don't need it. And I write with a sense of humor, and it's a little offbeat, but if I can make somebody laugh and somebody take someone away from their life just for a little while. We all have stresses and we all have issues. So it's nice when you can just read something that takes you away from all that. And I think as cozy mystery writers, we do that.
Kristin, I noticed you nodding and smiling.
I was just thinking there must have been something in the water in the early 2000s, because that's when I decided to write as well. I don't know what was going on. I started writing a book, and I didn't set out to write a mystery, but I ended up writing a mystery. And so, and it wasn't really a surprise to me that that's sort of how my writing found its plot and voice and energy, because I had also grown up loving mysteries. My family, my brother has this library of mystery books in his room that literally, if you just don't have anything to read, I'd go in there and I'd pick something out, and they're just, you know, it was, so he actually teaches Hitchcock at Fordham University, so you know, it's just, you can't escape the mystery in my family. And in Nantucket, I remember, I think I was 10. It's really foggy on this island, and at night you hear the foghorns and you see the beams from the lighthouses, and there are ghost stories. And we rented this house one summer, and there was this shelf just filled with Agatha Christie books, and I had never read Agatha Christie before. And I just fell in love with them. And I was already like sitting every day in the little kids corner at Mitchell's Book Corner, which is a great bookstore as well. You know, in their little section of Nancy Drews and Hardy Boys. But then I felt very grown up because I discovered Agatha Christie. And, you know, so it was just kind of in the blood, you know, it was impossible not to sort of make my way. If I was going to write, I was going to make my way to mystery.
Erica, historical, people always ask me the same question, so I'm going to ask you the one people ask me. How did you get there with those people?
So I was raised on mysteries, and especially my dad raised me on old black and white movies and masterpiece mystery and old Agatha Christie. So that, and somewhere along the way, I really picked up super romantic ideas about the 1920s in Egypt. So when I decided that I was going to try this, that I was going to try to write a book, I knew I wanted to set it there. And like everybody else, I prefer to escape from every day. So I wanted to write something that was a little lighter and humorous and fun, somewhere fun to spend a bunch of time, especially if you're going to spend, you know, years writing a series. You want it to be somewhere fun that you want to spend that much time.
I think you hit on something that's a really good question for all of our cozy writers, because I know that for me, it's as much about writing something with a group of characters that I want to hang out with. And I think it is as much for the readers too, for everybody I've talked to, as it is about this plot piece and that plot piece and how does it all fit together. Not that people don't expect to have the plot questions answered by the end. How do you do that though? How do you think about the people that you write and how you are, I mean, do you write people you want to hang out with? And do you find villains that you just can't, are you careful to pick a villain you wouldn't want to hang out with? I mean, how does that work out for you? Erica's in front of me, so let's start with you.
I definitely was very careful to write characters that I wanted to hang out with and spend a lot of time with. That would be fun and red versus handsome, and you know, that I would want to sit and have a drink with in the bar, because my character spent a lot of time in the bar. It's the 1920s. But also the villains, actually the villain in the Murder at the Mena House is based on an old boss of mine that I did not want to spend a lot of time with. So, so yeah, they are people I want to either want to or don't want to spend time with.
Kristin?
Well, I think one of the things I really like about cozies in general is that the protagonists all have so much moxie. They're just such power people, and they jump out of their comfort zone in into the unknown when they're called to, and while they're doing that, they're holding down a job and being a good family member or friend, and everything is, it's sort of, you know, we're always juggling a lot of things,
Right.
and quietly being a hero here and there in these very, you know, unexpected ways, I think. And so, you know, I love the opportunity to write a cozy mystery protagonist. My sleuth in the Nantucket Candlemaker Mysteries is Stella Wright. She owns a candle store. She makes her own candles. She's been there forever. She has these friends who she grew up with, who are still her close friends. And so there are some things that I relate to. You know, I have a lot of really good friends who I grew up with. I'm very close to my family. So there are, you know, elements that I already relate to with this character. She can do more in an hour than I do in a week, but, you know, I like that too. I need her energy. It lifts me. So she's really fun to spend a day with, and I love all her friends. And I would say that for me as well, Nantucket is as much a character as the people in the books. And I'm actually in Nantucket right now. It's just wonderful in February when you're freezing cold to sort of be writing about this place that you love on a sunny day or a foggy night. And so it's not only the characters I like to be with, but it's the place I love to be.
Jean, you're nodding too.
Yeah, I believe that, Kristin. I know that Jules lives in the countryside, but not real far from the city, but far enough so that she can manage to still be a country girl. And of course, she has the animals and everything, but I mean, she's not a farmer per se farmer. She just has the rabbit farm. And you know, I just, I think we get comfortable in the skin of our characters. I know when I wrote the Vinny Esposito series, I based it on my daughter. And now I can get right into that character. I know what she's thinking. I know how she feels. I know what her attitude is, because I knew all that about my daughter. So with Jules, what I did was I had to develop her from scratch, which was really a challenge. But the real challenge was figuring out how I was going to get Bun to be the mystery guy. And it wasn't until I realized he was going to talk to her she's the only one who can hear him. So, you know, it's one of those things that once you get comfortable with your characters, they're like your friends.
Right.
You know, they're like your friends, and they don't judge you.
No, and you can make them go away whenever you want to by closing the computer.
It's a good thing.
I know I have a couple of favorite characters who are not the main character. My main character is best described as part Anne of Green Gables, part Beverly Sills, and part Errol Flynn. She sings trouser rolls in opera, and she's not intimidating. She's very unpretentious, but she's not as much fun to hang around with as the second lead, who is her cousin Tommy, who is just a sweetheart. He's a former boxing champ, and he's her manager, and he can do things she can't because he's not the star. You know, he can have some fun, and he can go to baseball games and go out drinking with the sports writers, which a respectable lady can't do. So I have him and a few other people that I write that I really love to just play with. Do you have characters who are not the main character that will threaten to take over if you don't keep them under control? Can we start with Kristin?
We all do, I think.
Yeah.
I just want to interrupt quickly. Peggy is here on the call.
Let's get Peggy in then. I'm sorry. Please.
Maybe you want to start with Peggy?
Yeah, maybe we should start with Peggy. I'm sorry. Let's welcome in, please. Welcome our fifth author, Peggy Earhart, who is the author of the Knit and Nibble mystery series, and her latest installment is A Fatal Yarn, which was out in April 2020. Former English professor who lives in New Jersey with a PhD in medieval literature from the University of Illinois. And she is a longtime member of Mystery Writers and Sisters in Crime. And she joins us now. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Hi. I think we're having a muting issue, maybe.
I unmuted it.
Oh, okay, I can hear you. Good. I'm sorry. Good to have you. We were talking about having secondary, or at least not the lead character, who takes over people that we love to write, and if we let them, they take everything over under us. Got any thoughts?
I'm not seeing myself.
Oh dear.
I'm not seeing myself the way I see the other people.
Oh,
Click the wide view.
Yeah. I guess you're seeing me.
we see you.
Yep.
Okay, well, yeah, so let's try to see what we can do. So what was your
Okay.
question?
Okay, so we had just started a question about how we have characters in the worlds of our books who, although they're not the lead, kind of take over because we like them so much and they're fun to hang around with and fun to write. Do you have characters like that?
My two main characters are my co-sleuths, Pamela, who's my main sleuth, and her best friend Bettina, who lives across the street from her. And they've been ongoing since the first book, which was Murder, She Knit. Now I'm on writing actually number 7, so we're buzzing right along. Yeah,
That's
and
great.
when I created the series, the premise was it would be a knitting club. And so right away, I created 6 characters that would be the ongoing characters. And I've gotten to know all of them quite well. Pamela is the voice. We don't hear her voice because it's not a first-person narrative, but it's sort of a close third person. So mostly we're inside her mind. And her friend Bettina, who lives across the street and is another one of the knitters, helps her with her sleuthing. But there are also 4 other characters. There's a man in the knitting group. I put him in there for a little variety. He's a corporate lawyer who has taken up knitting to try to relax. There's a woman in her 80s. I wanted a little age range there. Nell, who's kind of an old-time liberal who has very liberal views and doesn't approve of sugar and is in favor of same-sex marriage and all those good liberal things. And then I have 2 young women who are best friends. So I have a whole spectrum of ages and types. And I've just had a huge amount of fun playing around with them. In my books, usually there are 3 meetings of the Knit and Nibble Club because my books take place over maybe a couple of weeks. And so often we start with a meeting of the Knit and Nibble Club, and then there's one in the middle. They all show up with their knitting, and the person who's hosting serves a dessert. And they have their coffee and they talk. And then it usually ends with a meeting of the club. And usually that involves someone saying, Pamela, how did you ever solve that thing? And then she gets to explain how she solved it. So yeah, I've gotten to know all of them quite well. And my husband has gotten to know them. He thinks of them as real people now. He belongs to a group that works with the local Guatemalan community. And they recruited a new member recently. And I said, how did you find this guy? And my husband said, oh, he was hanging out up at the corner protesting the war with Nell Bascom. Nell was my 80-year-old liberal person. So they've taken on a life of their own completely.
I think Jean was next at this point. Yeah.
Yep.
Would you take over, Jean?
Sure. What would you like me to say?
We were talking about the characters when characters threatening to take over.
I did that one. I think Erica needs to.
Oh, Erica, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Erica, please hop in. I'm sorry.
All right. I think probably my protagonist, Aunt Millie, could definitely take over if she was allowed to. She's a bit of a pot stirrer and kind of a gruff older woman, and I think she definitely could take center stage if I let her do it. But I also had a lot of secondary characters that I really enjoy, and will probably make repeat appearances in later books. Even though I'm going to move my books, we'll be in a different location for each one. I think we'll see some people pop up again.
It's interesting. Kristin,
Yes, I have. Well, first, I realized I didn't answer the earlier question about villains. And I think when I write a villain, there's something even about the villains I sort of like at certain points. Obviously, I don't like what they did, but they, are definitely really fascinating and interesting minds, The character, though, the secondary character for me, who always seems to take over and lend energy to every chapter she's in ways that I never expect, is a woman named Cherry Waddle, and I truly think she could carry her own her own mystery. She's part of the candle making class. She's one of the students in the candle making classes that Stella runs in her store, and she's much older. She's part of a group that's called the Candeliers because they take so many classes. They fancy themselves as sort of the premier students in Stella's world, and they're just fun. They're like the kind of lady I want to be when I'm their age. They have really good friendships and they lean into each other, and one will show up with a scarf she knitted and the other needle pointed her purse, and you know, they're all making candles, and they're just very, very alive. They're always debating the merits of, you know, and risks of social media, or, you know, they're sharp women who are just fun and full of life and help Stella in so many ways. Some they're aware of, others they just don't even realize what inspiration she gives them. And so sometimes you come across these characters while you're writing something else and you just fall in love with them. And Cherry would be an absolute example of that. In every book, she keeps creeping in with a bigger and bigger role.
We've talked about what doesn't belong, what a cozy doesn't have. And earlier we talked about things that would not be in a cozy. What we didn't talk about, and we talked about some characters we love, we haven't talked about what we absolutely have to kind of meet the definition of a cozy, and also to have something you want to write. I mean, because we only have a little bit of time left before we open it up. What's the one or two things that you have to have in order for a story to be compelling to write, for you to write, and for you to feel that it's something you could sell? Peggy?
Cats. They have to have cats. If it's a cozy, there have to be cats. My books all have cats on the cover. If you can see this artist lives in Iceland, and he's just does the most fantastic covers. To me, the cat is sort of the emblem of coziness, because why would a wild creature like that choose to leave its wildness if it didn't see some attraction to a hearth and a settled life?
Jean?
Well, I have rabbits in mind, so I do feel that having animals, you know, not wild animals, but animals, horses or dogs, or, you know, I know cats and dogs are very, very popular, but when I really wasn't sure that the rabbit thing was going to go over, but it really has taken off and people love rabbits. And I had a woman who came to visit me while I was recuperating, and she had a little baby white rabbit with her, and I just fell in love with that rabbit. So yes, I think you absolutely need them because they bring out something wonderful in your character. And if you are an animal lover to begin with, it's not hard to write that. Do you find that, Peggy?
Absolutely, yes. My cat that I started the series with was based on a stray cat that my husband and I fed on our porch for a couple of months in a very, very cold winter about 5 years ago, and then it disappeared. But in my book, I had it get adopted instead, and it has become the main character cat.
Kristin?
Were we talking about?
We started with what do you absolutely have to have for it to feel like a cozy and something you want to
I like my pet. I like the animal in my book, Tinker. Tinker's like a dog, not a cat. But that's because I have a dog and I'm allergic to cats. So I think I'm channeling the spirit of a dog. And the cat that I always wanted, all in one. But I think the thing about a cozy that I couldn't live without is, and not to sound sort of too esoteric, but the spirit. And I think, Jean, you alluded to that when you started talking about what you love about cozies earlier in our panel tonight. I love, I love that they're called cozies and that they have these charming, beautiful covers and the inside, it, pun in the title and all of these wonderful elements. But I love that these are really, it's a trick, because these characters are really like rocking it and knocking it out of the park, and jumping into the world in ways that we would love to be able to know that it's going to end up safely and it's going to all work out, and so go for it. There's something so warm and sort of fulfilling for me in being able to share a story like that, and to let somebody enjoy that journey, help somebody enjoy that journey as well. And in my case, for these books, take a little vacation to Nantucket, which is just a wonderful place to be and to go. Learn a little bit about the culture and the history and the streets and the really unique aesthetic of this island. And so I think that's fun for people, and I love that.
Erica?
I have to report that I don't have any animals in my books, but I think definitely for me, it's the charm and the humor are absolutely essential. And like I said, mine are going to be in different exotic locations, which is going to be very exciting to, pick a different place and a different like sort of closed location where not quite a locked room mystery, but similar, where I can really, bring that kind of to life. I think that's absolutely essential for me.
I have two things for me. One is I'm an animal person too. I have a parrot in mind. His name is Montezuma, and everything that Montezuma does is run that he came with the house. He was brought there by an importer, and he came with Ella and Tommy's house. And everything Montezuma does, a real parrot could do, because I have a friend who has parrots, and I asked him specifically, would Montezuma could he do these things, and he told me that he could. But for me, the big thing is and you guys have all touched on this really beautifully, is the place as a character. That whether it's what place you'll be this time and then a new place next time, the place is a character, and you can't really feel like you're escaping and you're in a new world without the place being a character in your book. And I think you guys touched on that in a really beautiful way. And I think we have to open up to the questions now. I think we have reached that point. Am I right?
Yes, we do have some questions from our audience that I'd love to get started here with. First off, who are some of your favorite cozy mystery writers?
When we got on earlier tonight before this started, I mentioned to Erica that I started her book last night, and I think I'm going to love it very much.
Very good.
Current cozy mystery writers, I think more recently, a few years ago, I kind of fell in love with the whole genre when I was reading Reese Bowen, for example. And I know, her Royal Spinus is really popular, but she also has another series. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of this young Irish woman who comes to America I love. And oh God, what was I reading last week? You all start, and then I'm going to add a million more, because that's how my mind works.
I'm a huge fan of Diane Freeman's series. I think the first one is The Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Murder.
Yeah.
It's a historical series. Those are so much fun. I think I just finished the second or third one. I really, really top of my list. I also really enjoyed, I read a lot on the historical side, but I also really enjoyed Alison Montclair's series. It starts with The Right Sort of Man. It's set in the 1940s. It's two women who start a marriage agency to help match people up and then get involved with a murder.
I got hooked on Jessie Crockett's Beryl and Edwina series. They're at Kensington, and it's they're older, but they're not sold as cute little old ladies. They're older ladies in the 1930s, and the one that drew me in lit up a bit of history that I wasn't aware of, that I knew existed, but I didn't know the details on. The land girls during the war, and it was brilliantly researched, and it was really well done, and it was great.
Okay, you're gonna ask me now, right? I can't think of her name. Carolyn, she's British. She writes the Vera's stories, but she also, and there's someone who writes, gone. It's been a long day. That's all I can tell you.
I will say the one thing that I've learned.
I love Martha Grimes, and I just am a big fan of all cozy mysteries. I really haven't found one that I never liked.
Also, speaking about authors, I mean, so it's only been maybe 1 year since I've met any cozy authors myself. Jean and you were in the first panel that I did when my first book came out last summer, and I've learned very quickly, and I'm told this is not the case in every genre, but the authors are so nice and really fun and very personable, and really a community of people you want to be a part of. As much as you enjoy writing the books, it's the people too who are just so nice to connect with. And it's they're very supportive. And I was, someone was laughing because they said, it's a group of people who think all day about killing other people and murder and hiding the murder and villains that are disgusting. And then you go to an event and everyone's hugging and it's very warm and we're drinking tea. And I guess it's a little bit of, you know, the spirit of a cozy, but it definitely spills into the authors. So, you know, the list goes on. And as I said, there's a million names popping in my head. But everyone, I guess, is the answer so far. Not a one.
Okay. What kind of research do you do for historical accuracy?
I'll start with that one. Literally, if you're doing something set in 1899, literally you need to nail down everything from the underwear out, because if you don't know it, somebody else does, and they'll be happy to tell you. And it's way better to get that message in a comment on the side of the margin from a copy editor than it is from somebody 2 weeks after you've been published. And so I found myself literally looking into everything from what did a charm bracelet look like in 1899 to would Ella have had a glass of sherry at the end of the night, and if so, how would she feel about doing that even though she really wanted a drink? So, you know, that kind of thing. So I think you have to really, I think when you're doing historical, there's just so much to be done.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I had to do a lot of research. I found a lot of resources actually on YouTube. I was surprised there were a lot of videos of Egypt in the 1920s that I watched. Yeah, but I hunted down some out of print books about the Mena House Hotel, which is a real place right next to the pyramids, which is where it's set. So I hunted down resources about what the hotel was actually like during the time period so I could get the details correct. And I watched a ton of documentaries about Egypt and the 20s. And yeah, there's a lot of research that goes into it. Although I usually end up falling back on books. I like to read books about my research.
I have an actual place that it's so detail is equally important, right? People who live on the island, if you don't describe one side of the island in the right way, or the distance between getting from A to B is actually 10 minutes, and you say, and you know, she gets there in 5, you're in trouble. But I have an interesting experience where I spent so much time worrying about capturing the detail of Nantucket correctly so I wouldn't let the town down. And I, in this mind of my, of Stella, you know, Nantucketers, we think about the history of whaling as being a highlight of the island's history. And then I got one really bad review and like no star kind of thing on Amazon. And it wasn't from a Nantucketer, it was from someone from New Bedford, because we have a big rivalry between New Bedford and Nantucket over who's the whaling capital of the world. And this woman was so mad that I, you know, sided with Nantucket. So you have to be really careful, no matter if you're writing historical fiction or current, somebody's gonna catch you.
I take the easy way out. I made up the town in New Hampshire. I know a lot about New Hampshire, so it wasn't a big stretch. And my biggest thing was getting the information about the rabbits and what they eat. And because they don't eat what wild rabbits eat, and you have to be very careful and all of that. But as far as, I write in the present time, so I got to eliminate all of that research. So I cheated. I admit it. That's it.
I edited some books for a gentleman who writes the Lincoln and Speed mysteries. And when he's working, he gets so into that period of time that even the way he speaks starts to conform to the character he's thinking about all the time. So it can take on a lot of interesting forms. Yeah.
Do you feel that cozies are more popular now with Hallmark Mystery Channel making some series into movies?
Go ahead, Erica.
I'm
I threw you under the bus.
I don't know if I have. I think that they've always enjoyed a lot of popularity. I think that the fact that Hallmark has picked up on it is probably just indicative of the fact that they are so popular. But that's
All I can say is Hallmark, call us.
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe
Call
Larissa should answer.
Please.
Larissa, maybe you should answer.
Yeah, we're here.
That would be a treat. What do you think, Peggy?
Well, life is getting cozy. Life is getting less cozy by the minute. And I think that's one of the reasons cozies are so popular. I have gotten several emails just recently from readers who said they discovered my series and they love escaping into it from the news and everything that's going on in the world. So I think as cozy writers, our stars can only rise.
I'm sort of curious as to Peggy's point about, the world getting less cozy, is if the popularity of cozy grows in different markets and age groups, or, just a different sort of core market. That will be really interesting. Like, I always get really happy when I see someone, a teenager or a young, person interested in picking up a cozy, that it can be a multi-generational enjoyment. My daughter and I and my mom can all enjoy the same book and share a different viewpoint. So to me, when I see it growing, I like to imagine it just within a family. But don't get me wrong, I'd love to be on Hallmark.
I've gotten emails from people of various ages. One of my young characters is named Holly, and she's in her late 20s. And I got an email from a woman who said, I am more Holly's age than the other characters, and I love your books. And particularly, she liked the audio versions of my books because she had a long commute. Well, she said to her university, I don't know if she's a student or an employee, but she said she has a long commute and she loves audiobooks. And she was hoping that all of my books, one by one, would become audiobooks because she had enjoyed the ones she had been listening to. And she's in her 20s, so that was exciting.
That's great. All right. One final question that we have here is for all of you as well. Do you find yourself reading a lot of books within your genre, or do you find that you read books outside of your genre for whatever reason?
When I'm actively writing, I read nonfiction. I just don't want to get other fiction voices in my head because I don't want to be influenced by some voice that then I would accidentally be imitating that or be distracted by it.
I tend to read a lot of both crime fiction and historical mysteries all the time. It doesn't matter if I'm writing or I'm not. I really enjoy them. I do read a little bit of nonfiction, but crime fiction and mysteries are really my first love. So I read a ton of it in the genre.
I'm a recovering history major, and I always read, I read nonfiction when I'm writing too. I do the same as she does. And I'm probably the only person in the world who finds the fate of Anne Boleyn to be comforting, because I discovered Henry VIII's court when I was like 10 or 11, and it was a great read. And so anytime there's something new on Anne Boleyn and the court of Henry VIII, you'll find me reading that. We had a family health thing not long ago, and my husband is okay. And I was sitting there in the waiting room reading Alison Weir's The Lady in the Tower, and I'm probably the only person who could calm themselves down by reading about that.
I personally like historic mysteries, and the period is the late 1800s, early 1900s, and that takes me away from the reality of what I write now. So I don't feel like I'm cheating, but I agree with Peggy. If you read something that is set in the present time, you might feel like it's influencing you. But if you're reading a historical, chances are that will never find its way into your present day book.
I don't write much, read much while I'm in the middle of a book. And I think I tend to read mysteries, but I think over the last few years, I really, really enjoy reading work that's still in progress that people share with me, and we're sharing work to help each other. It just bridges the writer's mind and the reader enjoyment in such a really special way. And it's always such a privilege to read somebody's work when they're, at that early stage, because it can feel really scary. But I have a lot of fun with that. And I also would add that I started writing because I gave myself a challenge at a certain time in life where I realized I had some free time on my hand for at least a chunk that I could make into whatever I wanted, which is such an unexpected, wonderful thing in life to happen, right? And so I started reading, and I challenged myself to read as a writer, and it led me through just this incredible list of books that wasn't necessarily any genre, but it was sort of like a certain kind of mindset that kept shifting and growing and became very organic. It was probably the most satisfying and enriching reading experiences I've ever had in my own life. So it's a great challenge I give you.
That's wonderful. Well, that is all the questions we have from our guest this evening. Kathleen, is there anything else you wanted to mention or go over with the panel before we wrap up?
I'm sorry, why don't we just go round robin and say what you're working on now and what's next? So let's start with Peggy and just go around. Promo your stuff.
I'm writing number 7. It already has a title. It's Nitty Gritty Murder, and nitty, of course, is spelled like knitting. And it involves a murder in the town's community gardens with a circular knitting needle. The person is garroted the circular knitting needle. And I have a contract for number 8, which I'll be starting later in summer. This one is due, I'm turning it into my publisher at the end of July. And then I'll start number 8.
Great.
Oh, busy.
Erica?
I am waiting to, I'm going to start editing book 3 fairly shortly. Book 2 has been turned in. It's set in a manor house in England, and then book 3 is going to be on a transatlantic cruise. So.
Cool. Kristin?
I just handed in book 3, which will be out August 25th. It's called 15 Minutes of Flame, which is a title I just love. I had a completely different title, and a couple of my friends got in a cozy mystery challenge of coming up with fun names for books, and that flew out of one of my friends' mouths, and I called my editor at Kensington. I said, please, don't you love this? And within 5 minutes, we changed it to that, which goes to show that publishing can move sort of quickly sometimes. But anyway, so 15 Minutes of Flame will be out in August. It's a Halloween-themed mystery. There's a lot of Nantucket history. It takes place in the present day, but there's a lot of historical fiction in it. So there's a little something for everyone, and I love it.
Jean?
I just turned in the 3rd book in the Bun series, and this time around I'm killing off the person who had abused Bun. I've been dying to kill her off, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I think that the name is Ears to the Ground, but I'm not sure if that's going to be changed. So it's book number 4,
And
which makes me very happy.
And I've got number 2, A Fatal First Night, coming out a year from now. And I just also, just like Erica, I just turned in number 3. So here we go. And wrap up time.
All right. Well, we're all really excited for those new books to be hitting the streets and hitting our store, and can't wait to get them in our hands and on our bookshelves. So congratulations to all of you. And thank you, Kathleen, Erica, Ruth, Kristin, Peggy, and JM, for being with us tonight, for spending your Friday evening with us to share your thoughts and your creativity. We're so honored to have you with us. And to our wonderful guests, thank you also for being with us. As always, it is a great pleasure hosting you. And thank you for supporting your local independent bookstore. It means the world to us. Don't forget that if you purchase 3 or more copies of books this evening, you will receive 10% off. So go to rjjulia.com, and happy reading. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. That was fun. Kathleen, you were really good.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You
Moderator.
saved me. You saved me.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
That was amazing, Kathleen.
And thank you to RJ Julia for doing this virtual event. I know we were supposed to originally do it in person. It was supposed to be an in-person panel. So
No, thank you for being able to be here through Zoom. I mean, thank God for technology, and that you guys have been so flexible and patient with us as we learn this whole new virtual world. So we really, really appreciate that.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I thought it went great. So thank
It was a
you.
great turnout.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Nice meeting everybody.
As they said, if you want to get a copy of this, we're going to edit the front end and like this part of it. So
Okay.
you can share it on your pages, social media, things like that.
You want to just send it to all of us, or?
Yeah, I can send Erica a note and have her, she has all of your contact information, I believe.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Terrific. Yeah, because we can, see what we did at RJ Julia and get publicity, mention everybody's name. It's all good.
Great.
So thanks again, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
All right. That went all right, right?
That went fine, yeah. I felt bad because like Peggy was sitting in the waiting room, but she was like Galaxy JV3 something, so I didn't let her in because
You know what? Maybe that's something that we can make a note to Erica, like, please make sure that your username, if it's not already there. I mean, I know sometimes it's just like,
yeah. Well, I put a note into the waiting room just to say, hey, put your first and last name. But I think based on like chatting with Larissa, I think that I think that Peggy was, not totally on board with the Zoom tech. So, but it worked out fine. I mean, she was there, and I was like, Peggy's here. I
thought she was
say hi to Peggy, and she jumped right in, so it was fine.
yeah. But then at one point, I thought the screen was frozen when I was asking questions because I thought there would be more flow of conversation there, like banter back and forth with them, but it wasn't happening.
Yeah, I kind of did too. But sorry, I think it went about as well as a Zoom call can go with 6 people.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And there's just so many boxes on the screen trying to see like, okay, my authors are where? Here, 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 here.
I know, I kept like scrolling through and just being like, oh, half of these people are the people who are speaking.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, overall, I think it went all right. And I sent all the links and hopefully people buy books and
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
that's all you can do. All right, well, it's good to see you, Dana.
You too. I hope we get to work together soon and in person soon.
I know, hopefully in person, but definitely on Zoom. I'll see you on Zoom.
Yeah. Glad you're doing well.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.